One school, one fan base, one program owns the bragging rights all time. The other one among us who are living and breathing and post-color television age. So pick your side. We will, of course, discuss the game right here at the Voice of College Football, Ohio State. Right next to me, Steve Hellwagon, Bucknuts, 247 Sports. Tony Gerdeman, don't blame him for being late. The link was late from me. Tony Gerdeman, Buckeye Huddle, and Buckeye Weekly. Yes, weekly, that Buckeye podcast each and every day, folks. Guys, how we doing today?
Doing outstanding.
Well. It's almost become a tradition, Steve. It's the game. That is a tradition. That's not just like becoming a tradition. The tradition here would be for you to usher us into the game with some type of historical perspective.
Well, I'll tell you, the history that matters is the last 3 games have gone Michigan's way, and it hadn't been pretty. I mean, the first 2 were double-digit wins, and the last one, 30-24 last year. And Kyle McCord, remember him, throws the pick with about 35 seconds to go as Ohio State's trying to go in for the game-winning score at about the 35-yard line. And the recurring theme has been that Michigan has beaten Ohio State up on both the offensive and defensive lines, which we talked to Ryan Day for about 21 minutes yesterday, and about 20 of that was about managing the emotions and, you know, what's at stake and everything else, and not a whole lot about the football aspect of this thing. And to me, watching Ohio State the last 5 games, yes, they have won. It's been very impressive. They've done outstanding things. They've beaten 2 top 5 teams, Penn State and Indiana, knocked 2 teams out of the ranks of the unbeaten. But when you drill down against Nebraska, they couldn't run the ball. And this past week against Indiana, they could not run the ball. The 3 games they've lost to Michigan, they haven't run the ball. So that was my last question to Ryan Day was, you know, do you feel like you guys are going to be able to run the ball against Michigan? He said, we better be able to. And I take it that Chip Kelly is going to do some creative things, as he has throughout the year, to kind of juice that aspect of the game up the best that they can, scheme it up as best as they can. But Michigan's front 4, 7, however you want to look at it, it's pretty good. And, of course, that's just one part of this game. I don't for 1 minute believe Michigan has a chance to win this game, but if Ohio State can win up front finally and dominate things up front, it'll be a much easier way to go. I mean, Michigan cannot throw the football. Ohio State's going to stack the line of scrimmage, you would think, to stop the outstanding running backs they've got, Khalil Mullings and Donovan Edwards, and make Davis Warren try and beat them throwing the football. They don't have any receivers with 25 catches this year. The leading receiver is Colston Loveland with 56 catches. So to me, I don't know how Michigan scores 20 points, and I don't know how Michigan, if Ohio State's able to run the ball, keeps Ohio State under 31. So, it's to me, it kind of open and shut, but at the same time, you know, you got to play this one straight. I mean, you know, we've seen underdog Michigan teams, you know, knock off Ohio State at various times over the years. Ohio State was a 17-point favorite in this position in 1996 and lost 13-9, did not score an offensive touchdown. So I know that's ancient history, and many of you weren't even born then, 28 years ago. But, you know, it is a cautionary tale that you got to take this game seriously.
If you want to talk history and running the ball, the team that has rushed for more yards in this game has won every game this century. So
does that go back to 94, Tony? Is that 94 when OSU won and they got outrushed?
Not completely, but that is the last time Ohio State won while being outrushed in this game was 94.
Okay.
So there's been a couple of iffy games, and like the team that rushes for more yards per carry since the 2001 has won this game. Other than there was 1 year where both teams averaged 4 yards per carry. I think that was 2012 maybe. But run the ball, win the game. And even as I sit here, I don't think Ohio State needs to outrush Michigan to win the game, frankly, because I think if both teams are rushing for 60 yards total in this game, it doesn't really matter, and it's going to be everything else that gets it done. And I can see a world where both teams rush for about 60 yards in this game. So if one of them does rush for 160, now we're talking. But the running the ball, and Michigan running the ball this year has been up and down. And if they don't get their big hits, then they tend to struggle a bit. And Ohio State last week, 4 yards a carry against Indiana. I think if they do that against Michigan, they'll be fine. It's not an outstanding number, but Washington beat Michigan averaging 3.3 yards per carry. Illinois beat them averaging 4.9. Michigan State fell short with 3.9. Even Oregon averaged only 4.8 yards per carry. So I'm not expecting anything crazy for Ohio State. But if you're averaging, a yard or two more per carry than Michigan, you're going to be fine. But boy, you better tackle the Michigan running backs the first time, because it's been that missed tackle or that broken tackle that has helped them this year and has helped them against Ohio State in the past. So the Buckeyes are tackling better than they have early in the season, and the linebackers have gotten better and better. So you just make sure you wrap up and make sure you keep the running backs contained. And I don't see Michigan necessarily just going 4-4-4, just like grinding consistent yards. They're going to need a big pop in there or two. And then they're going to need more help from special teams and field position. Last week, they scored 50 points and only had one drive of over 65 yards. So Northwestern helped them a lot in that one to get them some points. If Ohio State doesn't help Michigan, Michigan won't win. Michigan needs help from Ohio State to get this win.
Ohio State's arguably the best team in the country, and Michigan's about the 40th best team in the country. But a few opportunities I see would be Ohio State's two best offensive linemen are out for the season. They have adjusted extremely well to that. I have been pleased with their performance across the board, especially the Penn State game was remarkable what they did up front after they had to move things around, and that Nebraska performance. But the Nebraska performance is on tape, of course, with different players in different spots, and Michigan's the best defensive front this team's going to face this year, or has at this point. You could talk about Oregon. There's a possibility there for debate, and just mucking up a game with blown up plays in the backfield that are stopping drives. It's going to be the coldest weather day that we've seen this year by far. All it takes is a receiver to drop a pass or deflect one in the air. And when, you could be playing against me or playing against air, and you don't have to be playing great defense if, 3rd and 5 and you're off the field because there's a dropped football like Emeka Egbuka on drive number 1 last year that could have gone for 20 or more. And then special teams, they've got maybe the best field goal kicker in America. They just get it past the 50 and hit a lot of, you had a 58-yarder, I believe, last week. And that's what, and Khalil Mullings for 3, for 6, and it becomes the last 7 or 8 minutes of the Illinois game in 2007 where they're eating up a quarter by and then this guy Donovan Edwards, with all his faults throughout his career, he's built a reputation on one matchup, and this is it.
Boy, Mark, I hear a lot of concern of seeing a lot of Ohio State losses to Michigan over the years coming through the screen. It's palpable. I can feel it.
You've pinned me down.
You've seen this show before, have you? I think anybody that is our age and hasn't just grew up, started this rivalry with Jim Tressel, knows that, Ohio State is favored by 3 touchdowns. And if this wasn't Ohio State, Michigan, I would say, Ohio State by 3 touchdowns, but it's not. It's Ohio State versus Michigan. And Michigan does a good job of gumming things up and just making things more difficult than necessary for teams. And so I could see that. I see that happening here. If Ohio State plays their best game, then they can avoid some of that. But it's really hard to play your best game against the best defensive line you'll face. One of the matchups that I'm interested in seeing is Josiah Stewart, Michigan's defensive end, against Donovan Jackson, because we saw them. Donovan Jackson needed help against Abdul Carter in Penn State. That was his first game, but this is going to be the most like game to that one in terms of a speed pass rusher. So Will they give him help? Do they need to give him help anymore? Is he ready to go out on his own? The last couple of weeks, he's not seeing the same kind of speed pass rush that he's going to see this week. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. I think if you give Will Howard time, he's going to carve up the Michigan secondary.
Wonder if Ryan Day believes that he needs to win by a certain amount, or he needs to win in a certain way. And with it 28 degrees outside,
one point.
Absolutely.
One freaking point. That's all you need.
Yes. But I hope
million years we'll all be dead, and they'll look back and say that on whatever the hell date is, November the 30th, 2024, Ohio State beat Michigan by 1 point and advanced to the Big Ten championship game. It does not matter.
I'm right there with you.
There are no style points.
Yes. There will be Ohio State fans that will be mighty disappointed if they don't stomp.
Yeah, Michigan, the ones with money on the game.
It does not matter. I am with you. I just know that, and I certainly have more confidence in Ryan Day than a lot of people do out there on both sides that just think that he's trying to prove something all the time. And he's got probably the best team in America and maybe the best program in America. I just think they need to do what they do best and call the game like they would against any other opponent, certainly instill in the players how important this is. And from listening to Will Howard, they understand it. They get it. So the end of game situation, going back 1 week with Curt Cignetti saying what he did throughout, the last 6 months or so, but then also game week. And then Ryan Day responding with the final touchdown to drive it in after TreVeyon Henderson slid at the 1 yard line. That was kind of an interesting strategy move there to contradict one another. But what do you guys make of all of that?
Well, it was a bit wonky. And I think for, I think the first part of it is Indiana did score a touchdown, did go for two, did kick the onside kick. And I don't know that any of that justifies what Ohio State did after that. I think that Ohio State had the ball at the 40-yard line, and there was about like 150, something like that, left on the clock. And Indiana did have timeouts. So Indiana could have forced Ohio State to kick a field goal or punt or whatever if they didn't get a first down. Well, the problem was on the first play, Indiana just didn't even play. I mean, they just laid down and let TreVeyon Henderson run the ball for 39 yards down to the 1 yard line. And he slid in his mind thinking, no, let's don't, tack on a glory touchdown here. Don't kick the ball off back to Indiana and let them have a chance to get back into it. Now, I think that would have come into play more had it been a 8-point game or a 10-point game where, Indiana, if he scores the touchdown, now you're up 3 scores, and there is no way you come back from that with 1:40 to go. But so, in his mind, he thought he was doing the smart thing. I don't think sportsmanship really factored into his thinking. It was more, hey, let's just play keep away, and in 90 seconds, let's shake hands and get the hell out of here, was his thought, because the clock would have kept running. So, for Indiana, that's a you problem. That's your fault. That's like Bobby Bowden used to say when he put 60 points up on people, hey, that's on you to stop me. That's a you problem. On first down at the 40-yard line, your guys quit and let him go straight up the middle for 39 yards down to the 1 yard line. That's a you problem. No one's really stood up and said that. I just said it. You don't want people to score on you. Don't quit with 1:50 to go and just let Ohio State, those guys weren't even hardly jogging after him. I mean, they weren't trying. They were just standing out there waiting for the game to be over with. So that's, Ohio State wasn't trying to run it up. They ran the ball straight up the middle, and Indiana didn't tackle anybody. So they put themselves in that position to be scored upon. When you don't stop somebody from the 40-yard line, you get what you get. I think as Day started thinking about it, it was kind of like, well, we're at the 1 yard line. We may as well. And, you could take it either way. I was at a Penn State-Ohio State game one time where Penn State was up 6, 8, 10 points, and had a first down at the 2-yard line, and Joe Paterno, took a knee. And, you clap your hands and say, hey, nice job, great sportsmanship, whatever. You're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. So that's my 2 cents on it. If you don't want to be scored upon, make a freaking tackle.
Yeah, I think Ryan Day has said he wanted to put an exclamation point on it. It's almost like, we didn't get dressed up for nothing, that sort of thing. May as well finish this off. And they certainly did want that exclamation point. It may end up knocking Indiana out of the playoffs if things keep going wonky. But I have seen a lot of people saying, Kurt Cignetti shouldn't have been talking about Ohio State like he was. All of the talking that Kurt Cignetti has done has been for his team and his fan base and his donors. So while he may be saying one random thing about Ohio State here or there, he is saying that to his people for the benefit of their program, knowing that sometimes this is going to happen, but the overall benefit of it you've seen has outweighed the one exclamation point touchdown for the Buckeyes. And he'll keep doing that because that's what he is. That's who he is. And that's the kind of program that you're trying to jumpstart. Be interesting to see how they keep people and keep that program going after this year, if they can sneak into the playoffs still. I think most of the country would like to see them, except maybe the southeastern portion of the country would not care to see them in the playoffs because that means they may be losing somebody.
Yeah. Well, listening to the AD from Michigan, Wardy, last night, it sounds like Indiana's in because we know they're going to beat Purdue. And he used the term body of work, which, a little bit flimsy for them. They didn't beat anybody of consequence this year. And certainly Purdue at 1-10 isn't going to count, but they dropped them to 10. 11 and 12 are the danger spots. Those are the ones where you get bumped out, in the end by, the teams below you that have to come in. But I don't even know that anybody in the top 12 is going to get bumped out. If Boise wins out, they're in. And if SMU or Miami win out, then they're in. And I guess Arizona State, Big 12. I guess anybody at 12 and below is not going to make it unless the Big 12 champion, gets into the top 12. So I think they've created a buffer for Indiana, even with the win over 1-10 Purdue. I don't think you can lower them. I mean, maybe if Purdue, if they win the game by 3 points over Purdue, then you'd say, what is that? But I think Indiana's pretty much in. But
they've
to say something.
Well, they've created some interesting situations. Once they dropped Alabama and Ole Miss below Clemson, which I don't agree with because Clemson's resume is pretty bad for a 9-2 team. And for as bad as Alabama looked last week, that's one game. So they dropped Alabama and Ole Miss behind Clemson. Clemson's got a great data point coming up here against South Carolina. Of course, they have to win the game. They win the game. They just beat the 15th ranked team in the country. So they're going to be in the playoff, sitting at home for the ACC championship game at 10-2. And they have Miami at 6. If they lose the ACC championship game in reasonable fashion by a field goal in the final minute, they can't justify dropping them all the way out of the playoff field. So they're going to have 3 ACC teams in the field. They also have Tulane at 17. Spots ahead of 1 behind Arizona State, 1 above Iowa State, and then some scattered Big 12 teams underneath that. Kansas State, who's not going to factor in. It's too much of a long shot. Colorado, probably not, although they're still tied for first place. So they've set it up with Tulane playing a decent Memphis team and an Army team that, of course, the committee can frame that any way they want now that they've dropped them out of the rankings, that they're completely in the abyss or that they're number 26. So I don't know what they're going to do with that. But the Big 12 has a nightmare if they have a team this weekend that loses and still goes to the Big 12 championship game and wins and is 10-3.
Well, if they don't, if Arizona State doesn't win out, and they're going to have to figure out a way to jump a Big 12 team over Tulane, basically, because then Tulane's going to steal that conference championship bid as one of the top 5s from the ACC, and the Big 12 might get left out entirely, which would be interesting for sure. Most of the season we've just said they'll get one, ACC will get one, and now here comes the couple of group of fives maybe getting in.
Is somebody egregiously getting a boost that they don't deserve, or egregiously getting held back and screwed? Again, I think it's Clemson. I've got them at 17. I don't think they've done anything. Their best win's Pitt. Their second best win's Virginia. They just have done nothing.
Yeah, there's a lot of done nothing out there, and a lot of supposedly top teams, Alabama, that have lost 3 games. And Word did say that when they looked at this, like 20 some times in the last 10 years or whatever, there had been 3 lost teams in the top 12. And that I did a whole analysis on that. There will be 3 lost teams in this playoff at various times. I don't know if it'll happen this year or not, possibly, but if that's the way it is, and that's the way it is. I mean, this was a year where everybody beat everybody. We don't have, I think outside of Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, maybe Georgia, is there anybody that you really, really feel is positioned to win this thing? I don't know. I know we're arguing about spots 10, 11, 12, 13, whatever, but I think in a month we're not even, this will all be forgotten probably.
Yeah, the way I always view it is if you're somewhere in 10 to 14 outside or just on the cusp, everybody was happy at the start of the season to have a shot. So if you miss out, then them's the breaks.
That's on you.
Yeah,
that's on you.
You
don't lose to Vanderbilt, for God's sake, for the first time in 44 years. I mean,
everybody had opportunities.
Crazy.
Yeah, so no sympathy on things like that. I mean, your third loss should be enough to knock you out. But
we know they're one of the top 3 teams.
And I didn't listen to the teleconference last night. We were doing a live show, but I have heard in the past people calling in and being like, "But what about the teams that they've played? I mean, yeah, sure they've lost, but what about the teams that they've played? What about how good those teams are?" And it's like, but you remember the part where you said they lost, right? Like, win something, just win some things, and stop getting a good win canceled out by a bad loss, and then also 2 good losses. Like that, there's not enough there, and the SEC isn't so great this year that teams shouldn't be able to win more than they're losing. Like everybody shouldn't have 2 losses, and Texas shouldn't be in trouble against Texas A&M, but you're going to see some people picking Texas A&M for a lot of reasons this weekend.
Texas A&M sitting there at 20, but they've got a clear path.
Yeah. So then there's your 4th SEC team, or maybe your only SEC team if things fall crazily.
Crazily. Texas drops all the way out.
Who have they beaten? They would have 2 losses with Indiana's schedule, basically.
I agree, but they're number 3 right now.
I know.
Why? I don't know.
That's the other question. Why? When you tear up the paper every single week and you bring in a new piece of notebook paper, and you put all of these things down, what is Texas still doing there? And because nobody else has moved up, and there's nobody else to put there, I guess. Can't be Penn State or Notre Dame.
Everyone seems to be picking on Penn State, but Texas to me is a far bigger target, because Penn State's at least some of their wins are starting to gain a little weight, like Illinois and a few others, whereas Texas, they've got very little there to show. But then again, you got to fill up the slots. You go a few positions down, and then you're suddenly kind of thinking, oh, well, I got to rank them 5th, but they really look like a number 12 team. But you got to fill up the spots with somebody. That's what's difficult.
Guys, I'm going to jump off. I got to hop on a Zoom call for OSU basketball, but I know you got a guest coming up, and I'll be back around 11:45 or so.
Sounds good, Steve.
Mm-hmm.
Do we go into this game with any kind of concern in regards to any updates on injuries?
updates on injuries. I think Ohio State is pretty good right now. We'll get the full report on Friday night and release it Saturday morning or so. But offhand, Will Kazmarek, he came back. He's good to go. Zen Mahalski probably doesn't factor in at this point, even if he is good to go. So I don't even know, like, any Jeremiah Smith. I know people have been asking about his ankle. I mean, he played last week. He may not have been 100%. He's a week further from that Northwestern game, so he'll be better, even though it'll be cold enough to where any kind of aches and pains hurt just a little bit more, I'm guessing. So he's fine. The running backs are all good. Like, I don't know any offhand anybody else that is really banged up. I'm interested to see where Colston Loveland is. I don't think anybody expects Will Johnson to play. Sharon Morris said Colston Loveland is trending towards playing or trending towards being ready, but who knows what to believe at this point when coaches are talking about injuries. So we did talk to Day on Tuesday, and I don't really remember much injury stuff coming up because I don't know that anybody is really a question mark at this point.
Maybe special teams have become so, I don't want to say insignificant. They're not insignificant, but with the punt game and the kickoff return game being what it is, so highly diminished in the modern game, I had to go back after the Caleb Downs, not just the 79-yarder, but he had a 12-yarder before that. And I thought, has he been back there returning punts? And I looked and he had 2 return punts, but is this guy like a secret weapon possibly? We know he did it at Alabama last year, but man, if they have him returning punts, making big plays, that's another dimension.
Well, and he only did it in a couple of games at Alabama, and one was against like an FCS or a low-level FBS, and of course returned a touchdown in that game. But he's been doing it for about 3 weeks or so, because Ryan Day said they're trying to do something to get something out of the punt return game. And I think some of the problem is maybe Gus Johnson saying that the Emeka Ibuka is back there over the last few weeks, and people haven't recognized that that's Caleb Downs back there returning punts. So he has such good field awareness and spatial awareness and feel for everything that it wasn't a shock to see him do something that he did last year, returning a punt for a touchdown. I'm interested to see if they can get anything out of the kick return game. It's not been anything. As we know, it's been 14 years since Ohio State has returned a kickoff for a touchdown. That came in 2010 against Michigan. Last week, they had their first punt return for a touchdown in 10 years, which came previously against Indiana 10 years and 1 day ago, basically, that they returned to punt for a touchdown. The special teams in this game, I think, is going to be huge because it's one of the ways that Michigan has an opportunity to win, can keep this close. Field position is going to be huge. They need 60-yard fields and not 80-yard fields. And last week against Northwestern, I think I already said it here, they had one touchdown drive of more than 65 yards. They had another 65-yard drive, but they had 8 scoring drives, and I think all but 2 of those were under like 58 yards. So if you don't give Michigan short fields and you make them drive, then you're going to be okay. It's the Kyle McCord throw to Will Johnson last year to start the game that gives Michigan the ball inside the 10 or whatever, and boom. Like you can't give them short drives. That's what Indiana did 2 weeks ago when Curtis Rourke threw an interception to Zeke Berry inside the 10. Michigan turned that into points. You have to make Michigan earn everything in this game because they're not capable of it, basically.
All right. We've got our Michigan host at the Voice of College Football stopping by here. A lot of you are familiar with this guy, TJ Konarski, doing a great job building our Michigan channel. And I'll introduce TJ this way as well. Between he and John D'Adamo, Ohio State fans who want to win at everything, Urban Meyer once famously said, hey, if they're keeping score, you got to win. And the Michigan channel has just sailed right past the Ohio State channel in regards to subscribers, down like 1,500 at one point and just ripped right by them. Like Kenneth Grant, against Penn State. That was their graphic that they hyped for so long. Kenneth Grant chasing down Ryan Day. But TJ, good to see you. How's it going?
Oh, it's very good to be in enemy territory today. Obviously, a big week for all of us. The Kenneth Grant tracker did us very well in terms of surpassing Ohio State, where Michigan should be, all-time win leader, all-time rivalry wins, and now ahead of Ohio State at the voice of college football. Couldn't be better. It's how it should be. I think we would all agree.
Well, TJ, we definitely clarified that. I did off the top of this show. Yes, all-time Michigan has the series lead. For those of us living and breathing and who watch colorized videos on YouTube and on television, then it's a bit of a different count. But that's all right. Those of us who enjoy football with forward passing as well, it's a different count post 1914.
It should be when it started, but I understand your argument. It's okay. We got the next 20 years and Bryce Underwood kicking things off. We'll catch up on 14 and forward.
Yeah, we don't necessarily need to start with this game. And after I ask this question, I'll cut Tony loose. But yeah, you know that there's it's just a different age in college football when the 17-year-old future could be quarterback. I know that he will be the quarterback, but how good he's going to be, we have to wait and see. That he gets mentioned many more times than the actual Michigan quarterback. That we could do a test here in the chat and see if anybody can even name him. And well, they'll probably get the last name first and the first name last. Warren Davis. That his name has even been mentioned this week in Michigan circles.
Yeah, it's a very interesting dynamic. I mean, no question, we are in a position this season where we are looking for the future, not the present. And you guys are definitely in a position where you are enjoying the present. You guys have a lot ahead of you in terms of Big Ten championship, unless we can ruin that. And obviously a playoff run. I mean, I don't think anyone looks at the college football, any teams this season and says there's a true dominant power, right? Everyone looks beatable to some extent. And you guys are honestly 1 second away from being undefeated this year. So, it's an interesting era. Right now, you guys are in a great spot. We are in a bit of a reflection in the mirror moment for our program. So hopefully we get it together. And next year, the results are not duplicated from this year.
I think there's too much reflection in the mirror over the off season, and everybody just enjoying all of the glitter and the glamour. But we saw the same thing a decade ago with Ohio State, the 2014 team, and then the 2015 team. They start the season with 5 guys suspended from various things and just being enjoying their national championship win. And
did that team lose 6 games?
No,
it's number 3 in the country.
I'm just saying you can enjoy a national championship for far too long, or you can enjoy it and then head off to the NFL, like basically everybody, so many of the coaches and players did. But hey, if Bryce Underwood can be half as productive as past 5-star quarterbacks at Michigan, like Jaden Davis and Shane Morris, like what's stopping him? If he can do what JJ McCarthy did, I think everybody would take that and run. But I think he has to do more than what JJ McCarthy did.
Yes,
based on the price tag and the potential, frankly.
Yeah, I mean, well, let's be honest. When the entire college football world is going to be looking at this kid, and the pressure from the fan base is going to be immense. I mean, that's one thing about this, right? So he is going to have a lot of pressure on him, and if he does not succeed or does not look elite, and I don't mean just like top 10 good, I mean Heisman caliber good, then he's going to have a lot of pressure on him, and it could be tough for him. So that's something we're going to have to watch. But I think you're 100% right, Tony. We had a lot of confidence coming out of that offseason, and I think we were overconfident. We misjudged our own team, our roster.
The coaches did too.
No question. What we did in the April portal is disgusting, and our fan base knows this. We talk about this. Like, we did not set our team up for success. We relied too much on the development situation, and we were quite honestly caught with our pants down, and we are experiencing this season. We're experiencing because of that.
Yeah. Bryce, I saw Bryce Underwood last spring in here in Ohio. He was at a combine, and he looks like a creative player. Like, that's the guy that's what you want your quarterbacks to look like. That's what he throws the ball. It looks different than everybody else, But man, the price tag thing, and I'll say the same thing with Ross Bjork telling one of the national writers about the $20 million roster for Ohio State. Once that number gets out there, it never goes away, and you're saddled with it, and it creates expectations. It's as if Ohio State is the only team that is putting money towards players, and Bryce Underwood is the only quarterback recruit that has come with a price tag. And now that is Bryce Underwood, $12 million. Ohio State roster, $20 million. That is your new name. And you have to have a support system around him, a supporting cast around him. And I know they're trying to do that right now in recruiting, but he can't do it on his own. And what you see here now at Michigan with the guys returning next year, and I think they need more in terms of playmakers outside, even the running backs. They need to get him some help. You can't rely on you can't put all of that on a freshman quarterback and then not give him really, really good players to lean on. Like, you can't lean on a freshman quarterback.
Well, 100% agree with you. And what's interesting is, so I fully expect the portal to be an aggressive period for Michigan. And there's rumors are even On3 just reported they're expecting Michigan one of the more aggressive teams along with Oregon, Ole Miss, and I think they said Florida, which is interesting. But here's what's real interesting, Tony. Apparently, there's buzz that we're going to be getting a portal quarterback, and the name that keeps surfacing right now is Miller Moss. And what I am anticipating is a potential. If you remember the 21 season for Michigan, you had Cade McNamara, and they sprinkled in JJ McCarthy here and there, allowed him to develop. He will burn his red shirt. I'm expecting a similar situation. I don't think they're now. What's interesting though is during the recruitment of Bryce Underwood, we were hearing on our show that they were looking to play Bryce Underwood early. Well, I mean, I guess that still fits the mold. If you are going to rotate him in like you did JJ his first season, you are essentially playing him early. Now, it'll be interesting. Is Miller Moss the quarterback that they do get? And then you're 100% correct. Edwards is going to be gone. Mullins is going to be gone. We need, even though we have Jordan Marshall, which I know you guys are familiar with, former Gatorade Player of the Year in Ohio, we need more than that. And like what we found ourselves in this year, Tony and Mark, is we're on hope. We hoped players would develop, but when you're playing at this level of football, you need to know players are going to be ready to play, not hope players are ready to play. And that's where we took, especially with Evan Link at right tackle. That's where we took a lot of our mistakes this year. So I expect a very strong roster next year, but they still have to do it. Results are everything. Words are just words.
Yeah. And everybody's going to be in the portal looking for a Miller Moss, or, all of like, people like Ohio State fans are like, why doesn't Ohio State just go get a left tackle out of the portal? Because everybody's trying to get that left tackle out of the portal. So you can't just, it's not a shopping spree. There's you got 15, 20 different teams trying to buy that same 96 pack of toilet paper.
Yeah, I agree. And what's interesting too is with revenue sharing coming, some people think this is going to be an answer, but in reality, it's just going to raise the price point. There's going to be more money in the market now, and these players are going to cost even more money. It's going to get more drastic. And so the early rumors are that this portal season is going to be the craziest of them all.
So is that sorry, no. I want to talk about Underwood after this, so keep going. Sorry about that.
Well, I was going to say, because so I'm sure maybe you're familiar with this, Tony and Mark, but like, agents are reaching out to these programs in September to gauge interest on if they would have interest in their players come December. So it's very interesting the way college football has evolved. It should be a pretty wild December.
Yeah, I mean, I've asked Ryan Day, like, why don't all of these coaches complain about their other coaches, tampering and stuff? Why don't you ever name names? And it's like, well, you don't want to get. It's like nobody names names because they're also doing it, basically. Like, yes, right. If you start, it's best to just let all of these sleeping dogs tamper, I guess. But with Underwood, is this a 3-year deal? Is it a 4-year deal? Has that been reported?
So it is. So it is 12 million over 4 years. And the reason why, but like then people be like, well, what if he leaves the 3rd year? Well, then the 4th year is just void.
Yeah.
So it's 12 over 4, which is, and then but on top of that, you have the Barstool situation where he'll get extra. Like, for example, if you guys saw the video yesterday, he's going to do a Black Friday sale with Barstool on Friday, and all 100% of the proceeds go to Underwood. And then you have the thing with passes with Lucy Gao, and these are extra revenue things. You're gonna have autograph sessions and other hometown commercials. Like it's so. I mean, the kid's gonna make a lot of money.
Yeah, I just hope there's not a game where he throws 3 interceptions and Portnoy just goes off on him. Like, because Portnoy is not a guy that can just back off on thoughts. So I know that that's his player or whatever, that's his guy. But he's thrown his own people under the bus before.
Well, you know what though, Tony? If that happens where he has a 3 interception game and it costs Michigan, or I mean, everybody's going to come after him, even our own fans. That's just what comes with the territory when you're the highest paid NIL deal ever,
or just the starting quarterback.
Yeah, but I would argue there's a little more pressure. I mean, like for example, they're terming this kid the next Vince Young. Things like Jaden Daniels light. So we'll see. I mean, there's a lot of pressure on him. I mean, we'll see if he steps up. That's another thing too. Like if he can step up to the pressure, I mean, it just shows the greatness in the player, which will be interesting also to watch. When you get a 5-star quarterback or a big major guy, the unfortunate thing is you're probably only getting him, if he's as good as he should be, you're probably only getting him for 2 starts against your rivals, basically, Right.
And if he is starting as a true freshman at some point next year, that's not ideal. But by a sophomore, junior year, and you mentioned redshirting, like if anybody even mentioned that to him, because that guy's not going to be there for 5 years, and if he is, boy, was that a lot of wasted money. So right. It's just interesting where this is a guy like CJ Stroud started 2 games against Michigan, and was maybe the greatest quarterback, the best quarterback in Ohio State history. You get 2 starts against your rival, and they come and they go. And it's rare that you've got a JT Barrett 4 starts. Like, you almost don't want that anymore, because it's like, why are you still here? Why aren't you good enough to go somewhere else by this point? Why isn't somebody throwing $15 million at you out of the portal now? Good luck to him. But man, he's got to be able to handle that pressure. They need to get that sports psychologist in there and make sure that they are working with everybody on that one. And the teammates and the locker room, basically, because that's the other thing. Everybody knows what he's making. And so like I'm playing better than him, and I played 47 snaps and he's just watching with a clipboard. There's some of that. So you need a really good locker room to handle that as well.
Well, that's going to be a new dynamic for Michigan, because we're going to enter a new era where Michigan hasn't really entered. And what you need is a leader of men. And hopefully Sharon's that guy, because if you don't have a leader of men, your locker room will get toxic. You see it with A&M. You see it with other schools, Miami. Well, they're playing well this year. But that's one of the things I think people underestimate with bag schools. Like, for example, Alabama. Well, Nick Saban, yeah, sure, they were always the school with the car dealerships and the houses and all that for their players. But he was able to keep the locker room under control. Some schools do not have that capacity. We'll find out if Michigan can be one.
And for Ohio State fans who are kind of chuckling at the thought of Bryce Underwood, even if he does turn out to be a really good player, bombing at times with those kind of performances and everybody piling up on him, those situations are coming most likely to every school. And if they're not coming to your school, then you're not competitive anyway. So, every coach is going to have to deal with these type of dynamics, and they already are to a certain extent, but it's going to explode. It appears, if this is the new trend, and certainly Michigan is setting the bar, at least currently, in terms of, it appears one of the teams or schools setting the new bar of finances coming in.
I also think Michigan should spend about $4 million on a new OC, but that's just me.
We're in agreement. Yeah, they better get that figured out real quick, because that's a problem.
So that kind of segues us into the actual game that's being played. And because I certainly have no thoughts about Bryce Underwood. I understand he's a great player. I've never seen him throw one pass. The first pass I will see him throw will probably be in a spring game. And we will do that, of course, as we always do. But I watch college football. I don't watch high school football. So what is the path to that? I actually, I don't know if I convinced Tony that Michigan's got a path to victory. I think I just exposed my own scars from the past in forging a path for Michigan to win. But I noted they got one of the best kickers in the nation, just crossed the 50-yard line, and you got some points. Probably Khalil Mullings runs as hard as anybody. I don't think he's an elite back, but he runs as hard as anyone. And Donovan Edwards has basically made a career out of playing Ohio State. And you got a defensive front that if Ohio State's it's not the strongest Ohio State offensive line. I think they've done very well in adjusting to their injury issues, but that Michigan can muck up a game. And then Tony can tell us better than anyone that if Michigan goes up 7-0, what the tension will feel like in that building.
Yeah, well, I mean, so on my end, I think the only path to victory is we have got to dominate the trenches on the defensive side of the ball for us. With your offensive line losing Seth McLaughlin, losing Josh Simmons for the year, two of your better offensive linemen going against our defensive line, this is our chance. We have got to get pressure on Howard. We got to get him uncomfortable. We got to get him off his timing. If we can do that, hopefully it doesn't allow for sustained drives. And if you guys do have drives, we have to hold you to 3 points. We are not winning a shootout. We all know this. Our offense is ranked 128th in the nation. Your offense is uniquely ranked 28th in the nation. Okay, so that's interesting. Typically, it's a little bit higher, but still. And I was actually critical of Will Howard coming into the year. He's exceeded my expectations. Thrown at a 74% clip in terms of completion percentage, an excellent touchdown to interception ratio. He's too comfortable. And if anyone watches the Ohio State, which of course you have, we're on the Ohio State channel, but like the offense is built really well for him, and you guys have all the weapons. So for Michigan to have any chance, we have got to make him uncomfortable. And then in my opinion, we have to win the turnover battle. So win the turnover battle, get pressured on Howard, and hold you guys to 3 points. If you do drive on us, that's the only chance for victory. If we cannot succeed at those things, I think it's gonna be a very long day for Michigan.
Mark, you said you're trying to convince me of a path to victory. I was in school at Ohio State in the 90s. You don't have to convince me of anything. I've seen some things, man. But we just shortly a little bit ago this morning recorded a show like how does Michigan win, and it starts with turnovers is key. And Ryan Day always talks about winning the rushing battle, winning the turnover battle, and winning the explosive plays. And they lost all three of those to Oregon and lost by 1.1 second, that sort of thing on the road. So I don't think they need to win all of those. And as I said at the start of the show, the team that has run the ball for more yards has won every game this century. But I still think if Michigan doesn't get to Will Howard, I don't really care what Ohio State runs the ball for, because they will be able to throw the ball on Michigan's secondary. Now, Michigan's had 10 sacks the last 2 weeks. They didn't sack Dylan Gabriel once. So if they don't get to Will Howard, and I do think they will, I don't see a way Ohio State gets out of this without giving up, say, 2 sacks. But if they're not even just pressuring him, terrorizing him, you can give up a sack here or there. But if they're not getting after him consistently and he's got time to throw, he's going to find guys. You got Michigan now, Makari Page at nickel. They're going to match up whoever they want with him, because all three of Carnell Tate, Emeka Ibuka, and Jeremiah Smith can run out of the slot. They're all able to do that. So they'll have the opportunity to find some matchups that they want to take advantage of. It's up to Josiah Stewart and TJ Guy and Derek Moore to keep that from happening. And the way TJ Guy has been playing, like, he's going to be a problem for Ohio State. But I keep going back to the Josiah Stewart versus Donovan Jackson thing. And Abdul Carter got him twice against Penn State, got around Donovan Jackson's really fast, and that's what Josiah Stewart is. How much do they have to help out there? I don't think it's really an issue with going with some max protect, because I still think one of these guys will get open. It's a Michigan secondary that is kind of piecemeal a little bit. You got a bunch of corners and a bunch of safeties, and not really any one guy that you can rely on anymore, in my opinion. So I think there's areas there to attack, but I think Ohio State also needs to be aggressive early, which they haven't necessarily been, like last week, starting slowly, and they've had some slow starts. I think this is a game where you can start to just go forward with the passing game rather than east-west. Go more north-south, and don't worry about the east-west stuff, trying to tire out the tackles, which they want to do. So that softens up the middle late in the game. Go ahead and throw downfield early on and see if that opens some stuff up the middle as well. But
Yeah,
were we
so
talking
there
about
is-
Michigan's path to victory? I'm sorry.
No.
Yes, turnovers and short fields. The Northwestern game, they had so many short fields. Win the special teams battle. Drive 50 yards for a score instead of 75 yards. If Michigan needs field position, and they need turnovers, and they need Kalel Mullings and Donovan Edwards, one of those two guys, to hit their customary 40 or 50 yard rush to just get a huge chunk of yards so that they don't have to rely on Davis Warren to stretch the field, which he's not been able to do. I do think this will be the first game this season where Michigan has a 40-yard completion, just because that's what happens.
Yeah, well, last week we had our first game over 30 points, so we're doing a lot of firsts this year. Hopefully we get another 40 yards, or we get some 40-yard completions. But Will Johnson is potentially going to try to play this Saturday, which we need. That's a must for us. Colson Loveland's trending to play this week. So those are two players that I think are absolutely critical first-round talents for us to even have the opportunity to pull off the upset this year.
So Pete Thamel was wrong? God.
Which part? On the Will Johnson or the
Yeah,
Colson?
No, the Pete I think he said, or it was attributed to him, that Will Johnson was probably done for the year. But I figured, like, this was always the game. If he wasn't opting out, then this would be the game he'd point to. But I don't know. It's going to be cold. It's going to be cold. Might be too cold for somebody to shake something off.
Yeah, there's a lot of the fan base is a little frustrated with this one, because apparently it's a turf toe. So I guess there's nuance to the length of injury, but we'll see. The word is he's going to try. Now, is that coach speak? We'll see. To be determined.
I think it was a toe injury. That was the only game Walter Payton ever missed, was for a toe injury, by the way.
And Sharon Moore did say at one point this season, when asked, that Will Johnson will be back this season. He was very definitive about that at one point.
We all believed him, and here we
There's
are.
always the bowl game.
Yeah, right. The potential pinstripe bowl. Unless we beat you guys, then we can get into a better bowl game. But we'll see.
Yeah,
to be determined. So, but I think. Listen, you guys are coming for blood. You guys are coming for blood this game, and I've seen the player interviews from you guys. I've seen Stewart's interviews, or I'm sorry, Sawyer's interviews. I've seen we are very. I think some of the fan base may not be fully aware, but I'm very aware of. This is an opportunity for Ryan Day to right some wrongs and exercise some demons. So I fully expect you guys to come out very aggressively, and our team better show up, or it's going to be a very ugly day for Michigan.
That can always work against a team too.
Ryan Day always says we need to play with emotion and not let emotions play with us. So that'll be the key. And they were pretty ramped up on Tuesday, but the game doesn't kick off until Saturday. So you gotta rise up, calm down, and get ready back on Saturday for an early kick. Have fun with that.
Steve, any remaining thoughts on this one, since we've got TJ on the line? Any questions you have about the maize and blue?
I apologize for missing the last 20 minutes. I had to jump off for a basketball call, but I think for Michigan last week, I think it felt and it looked and it seemed like that they finally kind of put some things together and found some things that maybe had been missing all season, I suppose. And that was the team that, had it come together earlier, to have no one believes that team was going to go 12-0 again as it was constituted, but that team is a little closer to what Michigan football should have looked like, I think, throughout the course of the year. And for them to be playing their best football going into Ohio State, if that's how you look at it, that's the best thing you can do. And I touched on this earlier in the show that, in 1996, I was sitting right there. Michigan was 17-point underdog and won the game in Columbus. So, strange bounces, funny things happen. And, Michigan's got the front seven on defense to, just like last week, Indiana kept them out of the end zone at the 2-yard line. Maybe Michigan does something like that, but I just find it really difficult to believe that Michigan's going to move the ball on Ohio State's defense. But I don't know, those were some of my thoughts. I'm sure you guys touched on it for the last 20 minutes, but I don't know. It's been a weird week. I mean, a lot of people and a lot of the Twitter handles are anonymous, obviously, but a lot of talk from Michigan about, what they've done the last 3 years, when I don't know if they're getting their last licks in here in the last 20 minutes before this game's played or what, but it just doesn't feel like it feels like it's swinging back the other way. And I don't know. That's just my take on it here. What do people in Michigan think? I mean, obviously you get Underwood, still waiting on the allegations to drop, or, the penalties, whatever. Just last thought, just what's your thought up there about the overall climate? Is more the answer? Is this thing going? Is Michigan? Is this just a 1-year blip for them, or is it really swinging back the other way?
Excellent questions. Well, regarding notice allegations, apparently got extended, so we have no idea when that's going to drop. Now, we have no idea what it was supposed to be this week. We'll figure out when the extension is going to be too. But and I'll hit on a few of your points, Steve, because you hit on a bunch. But like regarding is Michigan trying to savor the last 3 years and really, yeah, I think so. I think the fan base,
and they should. I mean, 3 dominant wins. I mean,
yeah, and I think the fan base is also very well aware that you guys had an off season with a focus similar to the off season we had prior in terms of national championship mentality. You guys are coming for the prize this year. You guys built your entire roster, had a bunch of players return. Michigan, as a fan base, I think we are aware that you guys have the more superior team this season. But I think Michigan. So for us as a fan base, how are we looking at it? We look at this as a rebuild year. We have a bunch of coaches literally learning on the job, which kind of goes to your point about looking better last year against Indiana, or last week against Indiana. If there was a point in the season to play you guys, it is right now, because the momentum in the program's at an all-time high in terms of landing Bryce Underwood, the hometown hero. A bunch of recruiting momentum appears to be on the cusp right now. And then on top of that, the team actually played the best it's played all year against Northwestern. And not only that, the speculation is Sharon Morris taking over play calling duties. Haven't had it confirmed yet, but it seems to be the case because the offense looked way more structured, way more fluid, and it actually had, I would say, a rhythm, which it has not had all year. Plus, Davis Warren, although he threw a terrible pick in that Northwestern game last week, he has looked better. So if there was a time to play you guys, it is now. But I do think there's a lot of optimism for the program. I do know what is the word out of Ann Arbor is that this offseason they're going to be extremely aggressive. And also, now this is words, we'll see results, but the intention for Michigan is to play at a championship level caliber. That's going to be the standard now. That's the, especially from the donors. I'm sure you guys are well aware that there's been a rally of the donors at Michigan. There's a financial influx at Michigan now. By all accounts, they're going to be also aggressive in the coaching hires in terms of new coordinator, offensive coordinator, some position coaches. Sharon, here's the reality too. The question you asked was, is Sharon Moore the answer? Well, I said after what was it? I would say about 3 weeks ago, I actually told our community on our channel, I'm off the Sharon Moore train. I don't trust him. Like what they did in the fall camp, all the hype that the coaching staff threw at the fan base in terms of, saying things like, as long as I'm the coach here, our offensive line is always going to remain elite. Wrong. Our offensive line has not been elite this season. All the hype that came out about Davis Warren throwing at 88% in fall camp, or that Alex Orji's passing abilities has improved. These were all things that turned out to be not true. So the fan base, the community actually lost a lot of trust, I think, in the coaching staff and Sharon Moore. Now, here's the thing, though. He's going to get another year for sure. His seat is already warm. You don't have donors paying this kind of money thinking you're going to have another year of leeway next year. Next year better have some results. So the anticipation is that Michigan's going to have a much stronger year next year, but that's to be determined. And is Sharon Moore the answer? That's also to be determined. Right now, currently, I have my concerns there, but it does appear that Michigan's willing to give him the resources to succeed, but it's going to be up to him to succeed.
Good deal.
Folks, we appreciate all the super chat contributions, and let's run them down here. We've got Nick, my boy TJ, about to cook y'all. Look out, Tony. I think Tony has somehow survived. I know he's got Kleenex just outside the camera view, and he will be scurrying to wipe the tears here soon. But thank you for the contribution there, Nick. Erwin, since 1989, I don't know why 1989 so special. Buckeyes lost 28-18. Greg Fry with a late interception. They could have pulled that one out to tie for the Big Ten championship. Ohio State is averaging 26 points against Michigan, considering the weather, over or under 26. That's actually a pretty good number to throw it at.
Does Ohio State score more points than the temperature?
Yes.
Yeah, I would probably go over, but I'm not going far over that. So yeah,
I don't know if you guys do score predictions or not, but right now I got Ohio State getting 34 in this game. I think 34, and it is going to be a cold day, which is going to be very interesting to see how does that affect the performance from either team this Saturday.
TJ, you brought up 2021 and said something like, I don't know if you guys remember 2021. Well, yeah, we don't remember 2021, but don't remind us. I got a text from my daughter at like 1 o'clock in the morning, the Friday night before the 2021 game, and it had the weather forecast from Ann Arbor. And that was I had no thoughts about Michigan winning that game. I'm always supremely confident in my teams, but it just gave me like chills. It just gave me a bad feeling. So I had no idea what the weather was in the Midwest and what it's going to be here coming up this weekend until I had Steve Dace on yesterday, and he said something about the temperature in the 20s. I went, 20s? What?
Yeah.
I don't like to hear that. I'm not big on Ohio State playing and trying to throw the football in the 20s, but I guess they are grown-ups. They are semi-professionals at this point. They should be able to pull that off. Okay, Erwin coming back with this one. The Tavian St. Clair era will be glorious. So
yeah, it's
Underwood.
Yeah, no question. The battle between St. Clair and Underwood is going to be, it could be another excellent chapter in the Ohio State-Michigan rivalry. This could be legitimately a new era in terms of the two elite quarterbacks battling for the next few years.
I think it's going to be St. Clair versus Sayin for a couple of years, and then Underwood versus Sayin for a couple of years, and maybe I get my names right, and then Underwood versus St. Clair maybe for 1 year, and then Underwood out the door.
Fair enough.
Provided nobody transfers, nobody NILs to somewhere else.
Yeah,
but
and that never happens.
Yeah, that perish that thought.
It hasn't happened at Ohio State.
Yeah, never Joe Burrow.
No.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, I'm not going that far back.
I gotta.
He was expendable. All right, Alicia. Hey guys, TJ, do we bring our savageness? I've never said that word. I don't believe savageness. Ear 2? Question mark.
Well, I'll just say this. I think you're referring to do the boys come to play Saturday? Are you talking about maybe talking about our community? So our community is full of savages. That's potentially what he's talking about. Oh, here. He meant to say here. I get it. Yeah, go ahead. Let the Buckeyes know the deal, guys. You guys already know. Hey, Voice of College Football at Michigan. We are the number 2 channel. Actually, Mark, I don't know if you know this, but we are currently only 450 away from catching Miami right now.
I expect you to keep me updated.
I'm here for that. And what's interesting about that is we were literally like 500 away just 3 weeks ago, or not 500, almost 1,000 away 3 weeks ago. So the community is definitely growing strong at our channel. But yeah, let them know the deal, Michigan Nation. We have 3 days until the game Saturday. Enjoy these 3 days, and then we'll see what goes down on Saturday. And by the way, if we to the community of our channel, if we pull out this victory, we may break a record for the longest stream. So our current record is 11 hours. We might have to go 24.
I am typically throwing the term savage around here just left and right. So TJ, I think you stole that from me. It's one of my favorite terms.
11 hours, Tony. That sounds like something you and Tom and Noon would do, an 11-hour stream. Jesus criminy.
I know.
I think we've only done like 6.
Don't give Tony them any ideas.
These guys are unbelievable on this Michigan channel.
That was for the Underwood commitment, actually.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah, our community went pretty crazy. So we do. For every $100, we go an extra hour.
Yeah, like when there are people there, it's hard to just leave at times when everybody's excited and talking. So I get it.
It's hard to leave the bar when it's packed.
I guess we forget that somebody here did a 24-hour live stream with just a couple breaks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
but you had breaks.
Yeah. The first couple of years, I'm talking like 45-minute breaks, just a couple. Alicia. What's the spread of Joel Klatt cuddling Ryan Day? 30.5 minutes -2.
The over-under on world famous Ohio State Buckeyes is like 5.5, probably, I would think as well, from our friend Gus. And how many All-American girl Jenny Taft's can he drop off? I want to say that'll be 2.5. So
it'll definitely be in the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
Always in the beginning of the game.
Yeah, take the first
we
quarter
better
over.
enjoy him. This is it, because CBS has the championship game if Ohio State makes it next week. So this is it for Gus and Ohio State.
So CBS has the Big Ten championship this year?
I believe they do next week. Yeah.
That's kind of weird. Okay.
I think that was a surprise to Fox a year ago or so too.
Kevin
Warren.
Kevin Warren, he was like a chef in the kitchen. I'm gonna do a little dab of this, I'm gonna do a little dab of that, and NBC is gonna get this, and CBS is gonna get that, and Fox is gonna get this, and Big Ten Network's gonna get nothing. And he was like cooking that thing up. I don't know how he did it, but
I love it.
NBC hasn't even signed it. This is their second year, and they haven't even signed the contract. They're just paying the money as they agreed to do it, but they still don't like, and I fully understand it. What a mess. I mean, last week's game with Ohio State and Indiana, after all those noon games, should have been 3:30 on CBS. It could not have been on NBC because they had Notre Dame in prime time. But, I mean, for God's sake, have a heart, for God's sake. Throw us a freaking bone over here. I mean, this TV deal just sucks and sucks and sucks so bad.
Well, at least you're not getting the Michigan State treatment where you play every Friday.
Well, fair point.
There is a clear delineation of the Friday programs and the Saturday programs. The Friday programs are the 4 newbies from the West Coast, because they did that all the time in the Pac-12 contract. And then anybody who's not Ohio State, Penn State, or Michigan. And you guys can fight over all them Friday games that you like. You need them for the publicity. See, the problem is you can't logistically do 100,000 people at Ohio State, Michigan, or Penn State on a school day. You just can't. You'd have to cancel school to be able to do that, and they don't want to do that. So Ohio State takes a October break, one weekend where they take Thursday, Friday off, and maybe the following Monday they let everybody get out of town for one weekend in mid-October. That is the only weekend, or Labor Day weekend, but well, they may have class on Labor Day Friday. I don't know, but that's the only Friday where you could ever have a home game at Ohio State on Friday. Plus the high school teams in Ohio high school football is like religion in Ohio. And they played one at Northwestern 5 years ago, and everybody just pooped a cow over that. And they gave everybody an 11-month notice. You can move your high school game to Thursday or Saturday all you want to avoid being up against Ohio State. And people still crabbed about it. And I understand it, but no, those big schools, you can't, to fill a 60,000 seat stadium, whatever, no problem. But, it's just too much the whole campus shuts down to have 100,000 people on campus for football.
Alicia, we appreciate you coming back with this one.
Mark, it's yes. Elijah.
I'm sorry.
That's our good friend Elijah.
From the Michigan channel.
Yep.
Well, I should especially get that correct after this nice comment here. Good morning, Mark. Been following you since I was in the Army. Your channel got me through the 2020 season. Well, thank you so much. We've heard that from a lot of people during COVID, so that's very nice to hear. Thank you for that. And we've got another one coming in here with maybe a prediction. Love the boys in blue. Oh, we all do, Elisha. We all do. But I think OSU grinds this one out 35-14, 17-7 at half. And then Ohio State starts gashing a tired Graham and Grant. Michigan just doesn't have the offense to keep up.
That's how I see it. Pretty much.
And then, Elisha, thank you so much for this. Sad part is I think Michigan's front four is the best Ohio State has seen, especially with the injuries, but Ohio State is just built different this year.
Tony, back on that topic we had earlier, do you think Ohio State has to throw the ball to run it in this game?
I think that, yeah, I've been saying that same thing where you don't need to establish the run to establish the game. I think you can establish the throw and then run from that. I will say the Oregon front was pretty good, and Derek Harmon from Michigan State was a dominating player. But yeah, I would agree that this is going to be the best front Ohio State has seen. They've seen some good ones though, so that has helped them prepare. But this new offensive line necessarily hasn't. So that's going to be a strong test for everybody up front for sure.
They made Abdul Carter a first-round pick. So,
yeah, they have seen some good ones. Penn State, Iowa, Nebraska are all really good fronts. Moose, TJ Ronin's son. Let him know, TJ.
We're here for it.
He is.
Shout out Moose.
We love Moose. And Elisha here again. Ohio State's cornerback number one's secondary coach is Barney. The way he holds and hugs people. We talking about our buddy Davison Igbignosin?
Yeah, stop grabbing. The one thing I'll say this week is you shouldn't have to grab Michigan's wide receivers to cover them. They don't go very. They're not downfield threats, so you shouldn't have to catch up with them. They run a lot of screens, so shoot, most of the time they're not even going past. Some of the guys aren't even going past the line of scrimmage, so you can grab them if you want, I guess. But if you're getting PIs on Tyler Morris or Fred Moore or whomever, like that's not a great sign. It shouldn't happen. Is Samaj Morgan playing? Do we know?
Yeah, he should be playing.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean much.
No, I mean he's averaging.
He's not had quite the year that was anticipated for Samaj Morgan, but I hear it. Yeah, he's been a bit of a disappointment for us this season. I'm sure you guys are well aware of the video he put up last year.
Mm-hmm. So is Ohio State.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And that might be why you asked if he's playing or not. So we'll find out. I mean, again, I think
5.6 yards per catch.
I'm sorry, what was that, Tony?
Because it was a couple days ago, Jermaine Matthews, one of Ohio State's corners, retweeted that Instagram video from last year from Samaj Morgan. So yes, they're watching.
Yes,
always watching. Yeah, everybody's always watching.
Yeah, Michigan better come to play because Ohio State will.
Elisha, thank you for this. You guys may need to help me out, especially you, TJ, on some of these. I don't know if I'm getting the full gist on these. So I'm assuming that's Facebook is worried about Diddy. When Ryan Day has Joel Klatt and RJ Young hidden in a closet, dipped in baby oil and an apple in their mouth.
So the FBI is worried about Diddy when Ryan Day has Joel Klatt and RJ because of the Diddy freak-off parties, right? So,
that I'm on top of.
Are you, Mark?
So,
well, I'm not. I know that there's something going on there. I know that these are people that I could care less about and that they're in trouble. And so justice be served. That's about my involvement.
Yeah. Rumor has it Ryan Day may have visited some Diddy parties, allegedly from the Michigan side of things.
Okay.
Allegedly.
Trustworthy sources, I'm sure. Okay. DJ, thanks for being here. And everybody get on over to the, if you're not aware, the Michigan channel. They get together every Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time. And then, of course, the big call-in show. And Buckeye fans are there. So you're not going to be the first if you show up. You're not going to be alone. So TJ, just let everyone know what you got available on the Michigan channel. It's
absolutely
quite a group over there.
Yeah, and actually we have a lot of Buckeyes. We like and we enjoy them because we embrace the rivalry. Like, listen, we're all for it. We like. I think we'd all agree college football is better with the rivalry. I think this game is absolutely makes each team better. And as you guys can see, if you guys lose to us, you guys look in the mirror, get it together. We lose to you, we look in the mirror, we get it together. So we appreciate it. We embrace it. We do talk a little smack, but we have respect for the rivals. And like, honestly, it's crazy. There's a lot of Buckeyes who I've actually grown friends with on that channel. So if you guys want to catch us, it's every Tuesday. We'll like Doreen and Philip and Garrison, who's now on our so it's interesting. You actually build friendships through the rivalry. But so every Tuesday, 8 p.m. At the Michigan at the Voice College Football channel. Then I have the call-in show every Thursday at 8 p.m. And then, of course, we will have the post-game show, which always goes at least 5 hours typically. The community is very strong. And if you guys want to find me on the socials, it is TJ_Ronin. I really appreciate everyone following me over there. And it's just been great, Mark. And looking forward to the game Saturday. Tony and Steve, it was nice to chat with you guys.
Yep.
Hopefully your Saturday is not so great, though.
We'll see.
And folks on the Michigan channel, you just have to beware at times because I sometimes pop in for 10 or 15 minutes, and I've contemplated a follow-up show that is a fact-check show of all the erroneous, inaccurate information in the chat.
Live fact-checking. What are you, the Washington Post or some shit? What's going on?
That's what we do here at the Voice of College Football. We hold people accountable. I hate misinformation crap on these chats, so I go crazy going after people that spew out stuff that's inaccurate.
I've got a factoid I'll throw out here right before the buzzer. I'm 56 years old. This will be the 35th Ohio State-Michigan game I have attended, and as you multiply the 34 I've been at times 3.5, I have spent 120 hours, which is the equivalent of 5 full days of my life in a stadium watching Ohio State play Michigan, and it is every year just an incredible experience. So anybody who's going, bundle up and get ready for the ride, because it'll be something that you've never seen before will happen on Saturday, I'm sure. Good
stuff. TJ, thanks for stopping by. Tony Gerdeman, Buckeye Huddle and Buckeye Weekly. Anything in particular, Tony, you want to highlight?
We're dropping Buckeye Weeklies about every 12 hours now, touching on listener questions. That's legitimate.
The contractions will come at 3 hours and then 2 hours and then 1 hour.
Bold predictions show will drop tomorrow. We know everybody's driving around visiting family, so we're trying to get you some stuff, some extra stuff. There's plenty to talk about, as you guys know. So, and then I'm writing right now about run the ball, win the game. So you can find that at BuckeyeHuddle.com.
Steve.
Nope, nothing big. Just the usual stuff going into this one. I'm going to post a thing about the history of the game today, the game data page either today or tomorrow. And everybody have a great and happy and safe Thanksgiving. Get where you're going to be safe and sound, and hug your loved ones because you never know. And then Friday, Black Friday, hope to see a few of you. Ohio State is hosting Pittsburgh, 2:30 p.m. The game's on Peacock. Nobody wants to buy Peacock. So go down to the Shot and support Jake Diebler and his team. They're going to need it. It's going to be a tough one on Friday against Pittsburgh 6-1, and that'll start the party leading into Saturday, the greatest rivalry in the history of sports on Saturday at noon. And, it's Ohio State's turn. That's for sure.